$70. Whether we like it or not, this is the starting price for video games now. And for big companies like EA and Activision, the increase in price is genius, due to it leading to more money on the annual franchises people buy every year like Madden and Call of Duty. But for a lot of other companies, all it has done is made gamers more picky with the games they play, and has led to even more big games bombing. And I understand it from the consumer side as well, because like a lot of other people, I'm pretty broke. So the $170 game I buy a year better be worth it, since that is a big investment for one game. Look how many incredible games are just on sale right now, and you're coming out here asking me for 70 doubloons for Skull and Bones? Get out of here. If you're gonna charge top dollar, you better show up and not miss. So what did Nintendo do when they released their first $70 game? They ended up making one of the best sequels of all time. Tears of the Kingdom is the gold standard for video games in the modern era, and it's running on a glorified toaster. This is a game that is the definition of AAA, not because of how much content it delivers, but the insane quality of what the game has to offer. I personally don't care what the best value for a game is. I don't really make spreadsheets, that's not really my style. I just want a game that is unique to itself that I will remember in a few years down the road. Or just give me a Donkey Kong game, either option will suffice. And that's why I love Tears of the Kingdom, because even a year later, this is a game you don't forget. This game off the bat a year ago was instantly compared to Breath of the Wild, which is how it was said to be DLC to that game, and not really its own thing. But that's not fair at all to Tears of the Kingdom, because just like Majora's Mask, this game has a completely different identity when it comes to what the game is trying to do thematically and artistically. Instead of being a game that is about Link discovering the world for the first time, it's one of Link realizing his failure. The world in this game is so much more ominous, with there being a much creepier energy with the world on the surface and in the depths that lie underneath. The story of this game is much more expansive than the first game, and the story missions lead you to more places than just the original 4 divine beasts that lead to the final fight. Instead, this story is one of confusing timelines and complexity, and leaving us just like Link confused of where we are and where the horrors and evils of this world are coming from and where they end. Just like the depths in this game, the story feels so much more expansive due to how much of it lies in the shadows. And this applies across the whole game, with the game now expecting the players to seek out what might not always be easy to find. Whether it's the hidden temple or the plethora of other shrines and hidden other nooks and crannies throughout the world, the game wants you to explore the world and see how much has changed from the previous entry, and best of all, what has been added to it to make the gameplay in the world even better. I love the small improvements this game makes that streamlines the first game. Now shrines are connected to light roots at the bottom of the depths, so the surface world and the depth exploration go hand in hand, and now you're way more easily able to track down all 152 shrines. We used to feel like shots in the dark in the first game trying to find those original shrines. Now it's so much simpler and way more fun to explore. The combat and fusing system is genius. It gives new purpose to enemy death and the loot that they're dropping. It makes you want to seek out the King Gleeok and other huge bosses in the game that are optional because you want to get better gear and the game's wanting you to explore more. The narrative cutscenes are way more exciting than the story and way more engaging because they're necessary for finding the Master Sword, and the dungeons are way more exciting because they feel thematically linked to the biomes that they were established in. Tears of the Kingdom adds on to what came before and stands as a distinct and towering achievement in the video game industry for adding so much to the game. And I didn't even mention the fuse mechanic, which should alone break the entire game, but the entire game remains so fundamentally perfect, it's insane. This game is close to having no bugs or glitches at all. It is extremely well optimized and pushes its hardware to its limits. It's boundlessly creative and it strives to be a unique artistic piece of art on its own, while also at the same time having masterful game design leading everyone to explore their own path, while also using game design to have them be redirected back to the important parts of what the brilliant game has to offer. The reason Tears of the Kingdom is the only game worth $70 is because there's no one on the planet who will say it's not worth its asking price. Even other $70 games I really like, I would probably say just end up waiting for a sale because there's something wrong with it and the publisher will eventually put it on sale. But Tears of the Kingdom is so fundamentally perfect that it probably will never go on sale for the next few years. And the reason is because the biggest complaint me and a lot of other people had was that, hey, this is just Breath of the Wild with more stuff to it. That was my biggest complaint. My biggest criticism was that this game added stuff to my second favorite game of all time. If I saw me from a year ago and he was running his mouth about how there's just way more stuff added to one of my favorite games of all time, I would smack him and then hand him a copy of Suicide Squad and tell him to play that for 10 hours, and then see if he'd complain about how Tears of the Kingdom is only one of the greatest sequels ever made. Tears of the Kingdom is a game that a year later I can remember playing for the first time. I remember when I jumped off the Sky Island. I remember where I was when I accidentally stumbled onto the final boss. I remember where I was when when I realized where the Master Sword actually was, and I remember when I made the catch. This is a game that is so unique and sticks with you and is so distinct with how polished and finished it is of an artistic vision from start to finish. It borrows from its predecessor, no doubt about it, but just like the greatest sequels in any format, it manages to build off what came before, and this time creates a darker, more intense identity that makes this game stand out as one of our greatest games we've gotten in the last few years. A game for everyone is a game for no one, and this isn't a game for everyone because some people like games that are the same thing every time. They like that consistency. It can't hurt them and it's safe. But if there's no one left willing to pay for unique games, if there's no one left willing to pay $70 for a game that's going to be unique and true to itself and create something that has never been there before, we'll call the funeral home because I'm dead. And please, only bring me back to life if you see another developer stepping up into the ring at the AAA studio price point and putting out something worthy of the price they're asking for. Because until then, Tears of the Kingdom is the only game that's been worth $70.